I realized, well, I'm in a dead end job, and my body is hurting every day. No skill, nothing really backing that I can take with me. I think I applied to like 200 something jobs. It was a really crazy transition from I'm living at home with my mom, knowing nothing. I got a call there was 2 interviews. So after I get done with the interview, I'm finding out this is Disney. I'm going to be a freaking IT guy at all 4 Disney theme parks. Now I'm only in IT for 1 month, studying 1 month. And now I'm literally have the Disney badge and I'm out there as the on-site application analyst. I'm the only one in Orlando, meaning 2.5 weeks. After I finished the course, it took me 2 weeks to land the job. And what I tell everybody is when you're applying for these jobs, like you need to.
If you're wanting to get your first help desk job without any previous experience and wondering about the best way to do it, this video is for you. Nemesio was able to go from working at FedEx with no degree and no prior experience in IT to landing his first IT help desk job in just 1 month. And he did it without any prior certifications. In this video, we're going to break down exactly how he did it and how he was able to land his first help desk job and how you can do the same. And as an added bonus, if you stick around to the end of the video, he's going to share how he was able to move up to a cybersecurity role in just 10 months after landing his first help desk job. Hey, Nemesio, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Do you mind sharing a bit about who you are and what you did before you started your career?
Hey there, Dakota. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And yeah, so originally, I had no experience in IT at all. And when I was younger, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I thought I wanted to be all sorts of different things. Got into college, realized college is expensive. And when I started working and going to college at the same time, just to try to, have a little bit of spending money, I did poorly in one class, lost my scholarship. Point is if I wanted to finish my degree and also keep going, I was going to have to take student loans. I wasn't trying to do that. So try to get into sales. Sales was tough. I made a little bit of money, but it really wasn't for me. So I'm just kind of going through life in my 20s. No skill, nothing really backing that I can take with me. And then was doing valet when COVID hit. And, at that point I was like 21, 22, I think, around that age. And, COVID was like a 2-3 year process. So when COVID hit, I lost my valet job and I was blessed to get a FedEx job. So at that point, I'm thinking I'm blessed. Everybody else is not able to work. I'm working this FedEx job, but it gets to the point where, I'm only making $135 a day. And that's not changing year by year. I mean, that maybe can go up $5 after 2 years. And I realized, well, I'm in a dead end job and my body is hurting every day. So while I was doing that job, I actually dislocated my shoulder 2 times while slipping out of the FedEx truck. Yeah. So the FedEx truck has like stairs that you can walk down and you're holding the package. You got wet shoes and you slide back, you reach back, and then your shoulder just goes all the way around. Ambulance has to come. Yeah, it's not fun. The first time, it was like the most painful experience of my life, but I was able to recover and keep going. But literally 1 exact year later, I did it again. And that time it was out in like a rural area. Ambulance had to come and doctor was like, you need surgery and you're not able to do manual labor job ever again. So I'm like 26, 25, about 26. And now I have nothing, man. Like I can't go back to college. I can't do manual labor. I had tried like some apprenticeship somewhere. I mean, I was so lost. And my friend, he had disappeared for a little bit. Me and him are really similar, just trying to figure out what we're going to do with life. He disappears, comes back. He's like, Nemesio, I'm working at a bank doing IT, making like 60K. And I was like, what, man? Like, I'm pretty down bad right now. And he's like, nah, man, like I know exactly what to do. And he was telling me like about certifications and things like that. But, he sent me the exact things that he did. And he told me what to do, I was going to do in that. And I was like, okay, man, like I need to do something. So during my workers' comp, I was actually not really, I was just playing video games the beginning of the workers' comp for the last month. That last month of my workers' comp, I locked in because at that point I was like, dude, I needed like, there's no more, no more playing around. I need to do something with my life. I'm living at home with my mom. I'm going to be 30 in a couple of years. And when I really locked in that last month of workers' comp, it completely changed my life. And I learned so much about IT.
That's crazy. It's everyone has their own path into the career field. And, so often there's this section of people, a lot of people, they go for the college degree. They always know they want to be in IT. But more and more, I hear the story of someone working that manual labor job like you, or before I got into tech, I was a bulldozer operator,
Oh, wow.
and, I made great money. I made like 70 grand a year as a bulldozer operator. It was,
Okay.
most people think like, oh, you're a bulldozer operator making 70 grand. You must sit in a nice air conditioned cab all day and just do
No.
nothing. No, it's actually really rough on your body. And I was working horrible hours. Like I was working 4 12-hour shifts, and just flopping graveyard and stuff. And it was just a nightmare. And I just was like, I got to do something else. And I'm tired of just doing a job to put food on the table. I want to do something I'm passionate about. And I was always passionate about tech. And so that's why I made the switch. But it brings up a question, and I'm curious your take on it. What do you think makes someone a good fit for a career in the tech industry?
I really think that, and that's a great question because, a lot of people are hesitant if they would fit in this industry, but it's crazy. There's so many skills that you do in the jobs and going through life, going through school that can translate into this industry. I mean, it just really matters about if you are interested in continually learning. And I think that if you want to get a job and you just want to shut your brain off and never learn anything again, this industry probably wouldn't be for you. But if you're someone that is interested in like the cutting edge and the way that things advance, and for you to know, listen, I'll get in this industry at this time and maybe 10 years from now, there'll be completely different things that I'll know and I'll be proficient in, and take pride in the fact that you will be mastering an ever changing landscape. I think it's really for people that want to learn a skill, want to have something that they can take with them throughout their lives, and then deal with something that's really interesting. And tech is something that we take it for granted, but when you actually dive into how these things work, it's really cool. And you start having an appreciation for the things that you're using on a day-to-day basis.
No, absolutely. I was fortunate enough. My high school offered the Cisco CCNA program, which for those of you who don't know, it's a certified Cisco Certified Networking Associate program. It's a networking certification. So back in high school, I went through the program, got certified, but out of high school, transitioning to college, I was a college dropout. Like I had horrible grades, and I decided just to do a job to put food on the table. Hence, what eventually led me to becoming a bulldozer operator. So by the time I got into tech, that certification had expired, and I really didn't have any formal background. We're talking like a 10-year span from when I originally started learning networking to when I decided. And for me, it took me like when I decided to make the change, it took me about 3 months. So I had lost my job as a bulldozer operator, and it took me about 3 months because I decided when I was working as a bulldozer operator, I started watching YouTube videos, much like this, trying to figure out what I need to do. I decided to go the certification route. I decided to start studying for the A+. I didn't finish the A+ by the time I landed my first job, but I was studying for it and applying and stuff like that. I actually had to move towns because the town I lived in was so small. There wasn't many opportunities, and it just, so we moved about 2.5 hours away to a more tech popular area, I guess I could say.
Nice.
And so it took me about 3 months, but you were able to do it in 1 month. So, and without any certifications. So I'm curious, how did you go about learning for the help desk and was able to land a job so quickly?
Yeah. So, 3 months is super impressive too. I think, anything in 1 to 6 months is super great in the transitioning of a new career. I was blessed with being able to do it in 1 month. And I didn't have any, like, I guess, industry certifications like the CompTIA, but what I did get was the Course Careers IT professional certification. And I had taken that it took me about 2.5 weeks to do that. And you got to keep in mind that I'm jobless, back against the wall, workers' comp, living at home with my mom. The workers' comp checks are about to end. So, like, I'm sitting there like, okay,
You're in like power focus mode. You're like
7 hours a day, man.
this has to happen.
There's nothing else. There's nothing else. You know, um, I'll even admit, man, I was doing so down bad that my girlfriend actually purchased the course for me. And so then you add that into it where your girlfriend purchases. So now it's like there's just nothing. I'm spending 7 hours a day on this, and I mean, I was grinding it, and it was crazy because every day I would be learning new things, and then I got into the labs pretty quickly, just really grinding out these labs and dealing with different software and using virtual machines and setting up different instances and doing this relatively quickly, but when you're so locked in and you're so focused, and then I'm over here, I'm going on websites doing practice tests. I'll go on Professor Messer's A+ videos, and then while I'm sitting there just chilling, I'll have that in the background on 2 times speed, and I watched his whole 10-hour or 20-hour course like 2 times, just like I would do these projects, do the course careers, then I would go watch Professor Messer's, and then I would like just inject it, and then I'm going to go do practice tests and like, okay, what could I remember? And then all these things are sticking, and I was just bulldozing through it. So after 2.5 weeks, I had completed the course, and I had like a portfolio with some really cool projects. Like I had set up a ticketing system from scratch, and I in a virtual machine, and then I had like made tickets with it and escalated tickets and stuff. And then I set up server operating system in a virtual machine, and then actually like provisioned users on that server, set up the Active Directory, ran a script to like generate 10,000 users. So these are all like, I'm not in there learning about OLED screens like in the A plus. Like I'm really doing things that you doing and using tools the way that you would be using them in a job, right? And the way that I use them in my job right now. And so I'm doing this, and every day I'm getting more confident, right? So the instructor, the way that he would break everything down, he would make it seem, and it's the truth, like, listen, as you slowly start building more, we get your portfolio, as we get your resume, your cover letter, like you can start applying. So I'm applying for jobs before I even finished the course in 2.5 weeks. After I finished the course, it took me 2 weeks to land the job. And what I tell everybody is when you're applying for these jobs, like you need to apply for every single job site. Like don't be picky and choosy. Like apply for the level 2 position, apply for the senior, apply for every IT job. I'm blessed to be in Orlando, Florida, so there's tons of jobs around me. And I think I applied to like 200 and like
Wow.
200 something jobs. And I tell everybody 250 to 1,000 a month. It may seem crazy if you can document it. And I was writing every job, nothing too crazy, just the job, the day I would apply for the job name, and then the company name. And yeah, man, I got a call there was 2 interviews actually. And actually one interview was for the company I work for right now. Something happened with the hiring manager. The interview time got messed up. That shot out the window, but hey, I'm working for them now, so it's crazy. So the other one it was a contract position, right? And they're kind of vague with how they're explaining it. It's going to be at a theme park, right? It's a contract position at a theme park. I'm like, okay, like that's fine. Yeah, you'll be doing IT at the theme park. So after I get done with the interview, I'm finding out this is Disney. I'm going to be a freaking IT guy at all 4 Disney theme parks. And next thing you know, I get backstage access. Now I'm only in IT for 1 month, studying 1 month. And now I'm literally have the Disney badge, and I'm out there as the on-site application analyst. I'm the only one in Orlando, meaning I'm the guy that when stuff happens, I go and I check like on-site how it's going. If there's some Wi-Fi issues at park entry, I'm going. I'm making tickets. I'm collaborating with the park entry people. If there's issues with the merchandise POS system in Fantasyland, I'm over there. So right, and so I'm learning on the fly and learning how to kind of fake it till you make it in this $1 billion company, because I got the phone numbers for all of the park managers. And so no, it was a really crazy transition. For I'm living at home with my mom, knowing nothing. And then all of a sudden, 1 month later, I am on the front line of P1 issues in Disney and Magic Kingdom, making relationships with the duty managers. And so it was a crazy transition, but it was everything that I had wanted. And I was so blessed with how it turned out.
That's so cool. And I'm curious, what made you decide course careers? Like there's so many paths into the tech industry. Why did you choose course careers as your path?
So I tried the A+ just like you, right? I'm studying for that. I'm studying for that. The thing with that is 2 sessions and it's so much material. And this material is not things that you're going to be doing in the job, right? I'm sitting there studying like so much about like frequencies of transmissions, and I'm looking at OLED screens and learn. It's like phones and mobile. There's like 15% of it's mobile devices. So like I was really finding myself studying for things that I knew were pointless just to get this thing. And I'm like, I'm spending a lot of time and I did not have time to waste, right? So, like I said, I'm on the Professor Messer's A+, but I'm like, okay, like, so I just study this and just then eventually like book a test and then have that. And then that's supposed to get me a job. Like, it didn't feel like it was palpable. I didn't feel like that would do it. And my friend, he had the job. He didn't have his A+. He had the course careers, right? And he's like, no, you could do the course, you could do the A+, and da-da-da-da. But honestly, bro, I have like, I have the kind of the cheat code. Like this is what I did. And I'm like, I'm kind of hesitant on it. And what made me do it is my friend actually was one of the first people to like complete it and get a job. So he was kind of like one of their first success stories. So he had an interview with the instructor, Josh Madacor, on YouTube. He's like, bro, go watch the interview with me and the instructor, similar to what we're doing right now. And I'm like, okay, it's got like 20,000 views. And I'm like, oh my God. And I look in instructors, this calm, he's not no, I don't like to use the word nerd, but he's just not like the guy you would expect. He's very cool, calm, makes everything seem so easy and laid back. And yeah. And he's talking with my friend, and I'm just like, dude, this is legit. I go on, I check the reviews, 4.9, 4.9 testimonials. I'm just like, all right, like, and go take this CompTIA A+, which is a little bit more than this course careers, or I can just use my friend's discount link. And I bought the course. My girlfriend bought the course and for me. And yeah, man. And it was like the social proof was kind of what I needed. I kind of just needed to see that it was a thing. I needed to see those reviews, and it was like, okay, like let's do it. And it worked. It worked.
That's so cool, and it's crazy to hear those success stories. I love hearing them, because for so many people, the tech industry, like trying to break in, is this big scary thing, and they think they have to have all this knowledge, and they study for like all these certifications before they even consider applying. And I tell them, no, like if you're going after those entry level jobs, start applying now, because first of all, you never know when you might be the most qualified person that applies.
Exactly.
And a lot of times these job listings, like you'll see that it has all these requirements. Those are like a wish list. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
A lot of times the person who writes the job listing has no clue what the actual job does. They just copied someone else's job listing and like, oh, that looks relevant to what we do.
Exactly.
And so, I think you should, start applying for any job that sounds interesting.
Exactly.
And, people are like, well, do I know enough? And, what skills do I need? And what are some of the things you learned in the course that really help you set you apart from the other candidates you feel?
Yes, I think an important thing in the course is I learned actually like hands-on how to use specific tools. And I did it so many times that I don't know if I'm using this word right, but I became verbose with it. Like I could explain it, but I could be wordy with it. And I knew that, a lot of times, and especially in my job now, you get through, you work in the job, but you're kind of just doing it to yourself, clicks and clicks, and there's workflows, and you're not really speaking it out, right? And it wasn't until I had some people shadowing me that I'm doing my job and I'm realizing, wow, like when you explain it out, you're kind of understanding it even better. And so when I'm doing these projects, I'm using, RDP, I'm remoting into a virtual machine, right? And just getting experience on what that is and remote access, right? I got experience on, like, I'm using a Mac to do this, but I'm opening up a Windows operating system window, and I'm using a Windows operating system. I'm using a computer in my computer. And that was just, that some people, that's like, oh, that's obvious, but for me, like, that was just so cool. And then, like, being able to do things in that computer, then it got me thinking, like, whoa, like, what if I wanted to, this is off topic, but if I wanted to download a video game in this virtual machine, and then maybe if the video game had like bad files and I wanted to get it off the internet, I could be protected in the virtual machine, tested in the virtual machine. And then, I was just thinking about all different ways I could use the virtual machine. And then next thing you know, making this ticketing system, and I'm figuring out how to do all the pre-installers. And then all of a sudden it populates, and then I'm able to do things with it. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden I'm setting up a virtual machine, but it's not a Windows 10 operating system, right? I'm setting up a Windows server. And then I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is cool. Like, I didn't even know that I could set up a server and I'm setting that up and then playing with the Active Directory. And it's just like, you start doing these things that you didn't know. Nobody told you about these things existed. It's like you kind of had to know what to look for. But when someone tells you what to do and how to do it, you start accessing this new realm, opening Task Manager and saying, whoa, I could stop this process and then that would do this. And oh my gosh, like, that's taking a lot of the CPU up. Or you're able to kind of go on and open up the command line, and little basic things, IP config, and then oh my gosh, it's the IP address, or who am I? Oh, and I'm seeing it's just little things that, man, I never knew, and it made me feel good. And so, when I started learning those things, I would just try to write things down that I knew. And a big thing for me is, before I would go on the interviews, a lot of these interviews are like this, right? So a good strategy is to take a bunch of notes, right? And I could probably have a piece of paper to my left, a piece of paper to my right, and a piece of paper above you noted up, right? These hiring managers don't know. So while I'm sitting there on the interview with my nice thing, I got all my knowledge plus all my notes, and I was slaying the interviews. So, that was a good strategy that I had used to transition my hands-on knowledge into the interview and then explain it a lot.
Well, and that leads into my next question, like how you actually started landing, how you landed that job, and, what was the process? You mentioned you didn't even finish the course before you started applying, and then you started interviewing. How did that process look? Do you have any tips for people that are going through that?
100%, 100%. So you want to make sure that portfolio is made, right? The portfolio, it has to be made. It has to be on GitHub. It has to look like, obviously, you're going to get instructed on how to build it, but sometimes people will do courses and then not actually do everything that they tell you hands-on. No, like, you need to make the portfolio. It's extremely important. You make the cover letter. The cover letter, they're going to give you like a template for the cover letter of everything that you've done on the course. You just kind of have to replace your own information. Have your nice cover letter, right? So all of a sudden now, when every time they have you put a cover letter, and you're putting in a really, really good cover letter, you're putting a good resume with a tech portfolio link to it. Then once you finish the course, you can put the certification of the course on there, right? So you're starting to slowly put things on that resume, start sending it out there. When you are applying, you want to, like I said, apply for as many jobs as possible, but you have to understand how the interview process works, and you can use that to your benefit. So a lot of people don't think about this, but when you get that first interview, they're not tech people. They are hiring managers. They are recruiters, right? So there is a way to blow their socks off, because you know more than them. So blow their socks off, right? It's very easy to get. A lot of people might be timid. It's like, no, that first interview, I know you're the hiring manager, or I know you're the recruiter, and I'll blow your socks off. I know I need to get to the manager, right? Then when you get to the manager, you're going to get a little bit more technical, and you can tone it down a little bit, because they can check you on things you maybe said incorrectly, right? But it's really cool, that first interview. Don't be nervous, because these are easy interviews, right? And once I got that in my head, it was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. I'm not scared of these interviews when I get them. And then when you get your second interview, it's like, oh my God, I got past my first interview. Let me just keep locking in. And you just keep that energy for your second. Some you might even get offered on the second job I'm in right now. I got offered it on my third. The first job, it was 3 interviews. So yeah, I've done 3 interviews for both my jobs. It would be most of the time it's a recruiter. Then you'll get the manager of who will be your manager, and then it'll be is the manager of your manager is going to make sure. That's kind of how the process is. And by the time you get to so it's really simple, right? First interview's easy. If you get to the third interview, it's easy because that person just wants to make sure you're not someone terrible, right? You already made it past the managers. So it's like the second interview is your most important interview. So just treat it like that. Be really, really prepared for the second, but the first and the third are nothing to be stressed about. Make sure you have your portfolio. Make sure you have all your ammunition. And if you're doing remote interviews, have your notes. Set it up. I could have you set up so I could literally have like things on the wall, and then I'll set it up so I'm looking at, like, I'll pin on the wall, I'll tape, I could put a book behind this, and like I'll strategize and I'll make it so I'm extremely thorough in that interview. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome. And like, how did you figure this all out? Like, where did you learn like to set up your like GitHub and all that?
Yeah, it was on Course Career, so I didn't know what GitHub was, right? I still am like learning what GitHub is, like a code repository where you could put code in there and share it and stuff. But GitHub is a place that you can have, your projects and your different things that you've worked on, right? And it's really cool. So I got shown the code. Like, there's like a base code for generating your portfolio, and then in there you just kind of fill it out with the things that you did in your projects. And it's you walk through it completely. And it helped because my friend had already did it before me. He had his portfolio, so I was referencing his portfolio. I would go in. You can actually go into GitHub and then click raw code and actually see the raw code, so you can kind of see how other people's portfolios are made. Like, I'm trying to figure out every way, right? I'm not taking any hostages. I'm not holding back. Like, I'm trying to find every cheat code I can, because I know at the end of the day, like, I have what it takes and I could get the job as long as I show that I could, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And, I get asked this question a lot, and I'm curious your take on it. How much can someone expect to make in their first year at like a basic help desk job?
Yeah, so 40 to 60, right? That's what I'm telling everybody, and that's like what I stick to. Don't take anything below 40. You could get offered that, right? They might offer 17, 18, 19. Now, keep in mind that's right next to 40. Really, really depends on where you are in life. Okay, now if you are in a position where you are stuck, like you get offered a 19 an hour help desk job, it's like, maybe I'd take it while I'm just applying for other jobs, right? That way I could have it on my resume. But I don't want people to be getting taken advantage of, because these jobs do take a lot of work, and you don't want to get underpaid for it, right? But for $20 an hour and higher is what you're going to see. And then you get up to 60K. I've been in it for a year, and I'm right there next to 60K, and with my bonuses and all that stuff like that. So you know it went from 40 to 60. My first job at Disney I was making 41. Now I'm making 60 on my second job. So it's like these jumps are really healthy. And I'm sure that, my next one could go up to 70, 75 and keep jumping. And I'm 27 and I keep having this, and I'm just saying that I want to make 100K by the time I'm 30. So that's kind of like a goal. 3 years, I think I could do it. And getting in 40 to 60Ks, even if you're taking a pay cut, even if you're making 60K and you're starting at 40, you got to understand that this field has so much growth. And it's not going to stop at 80. It won't stop at 90 or 100 or 120. You could really, really pull a lot of money out of this field and get very comfortable and get wealthy if you want that responsibility. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. And, I mentioned, I was making like 70K a year after overtime and all that as a bulldozer operator. My first help desk role, I made $49,000 a year to start. That's a $20,000 a year pay cut I took.
Exactly.
But I with that said, it took me 1 year. Within 1 year, I got my first year there, I got a $13,000 raise, like $13,000 a year
Exactly.
raise. And then, within 3 years, that was less than 3 years, I was making well over what I was making as a bulldozer operator. So
That's
you
awesome.
can make, yes, you might have to take a pay cut to start if you're not making a lot, but there is room for growth and there's job opportunities. And, sometimes you can't get large raises like that. That's not typical within like one job. Sometimes you'll have to change jobs to make more money.
Job hop. Yep.
And yeah, job hopping. That is not uncommon in the tech field, for if you want to make large money quickly. And that brings me to, we talked about how you're now working in cybersecurity, and you made that change within 10 months. How were
Yeah.
you able to go make that change so quickly? And, what does your new job look like?
Yeah, so I just kept the same mindset, right? I had a lot of motivation after I had gotten that first job. I was studying, so I didn't really stop. And I had finished the course, and so I'm like, okay, what do I do next? I want to get into cybersecurity. That's what I want to do. And so I was doing some research, and in my job at Disney, there was a lot of free time where there was no issues. And so I have nobody watching over me, right? They literally would tell me, go explore, go do what you want until something happens, then you need to be there. So I had so much free time that I'll just go post up in an office, get the laptop out, and I would start doing the Google Cybersecurity program, right? Doing the Google Cybersecurity program. And in that program, I had learned it, Python, Linux, SQL, all these things. I'm learning log analysis. I'm learning all this stuff that I'm doing in my job right now, right? And there's portfolio projects, and I'm doing those portfolio projects, and it's just really just doing the same thing, but so it's like I'm in a Disney job, doing Disney IT while I'm studying for cybersecurity, while I'm applying for jobs. And I was on it applying like mad because I'm on a contract for a year. So like I feel like I'm not gonna be an IT guy in a year. Like my dream's over after a year. Like this is great, but it's not permanent. And they might renew me, but I don't. I felt like I had a noose, and I needed to. This was a great stepping stone, but I needed to keep going. And so, man, I was applying I'll be out there doing my cybersecurity or doing the Google cybersecurity course, working my job while I'm applying for jobs. And I actually burnt myself out after because I hadn't gotten any motion, and I was like, okay, let me just focus on the job I'm in right now. Let me start in a little bit. And so, I stopped applying for like a month or two, and then I just started doing it again. And I finished the Google, and I made the Google cybersecurity course. Took me about 6 months to finish. I was taking my time with it, finished that, and then I'm just applying. I'm applying. And then I actually got to the point where it's like, okay, man, like I'm not even stressing about cybersecurity. I just want to make sure I can land myself a really good IT job that's permanent. So I'm applying, and I actually applied for the company but it was either Disney or another company. And I applied for that company, and I got the interview for that company. Come to find out, it is an IT job, but it's a mix with cybersecurity, right? You're dealing with remote monitoring and management, and you're dealing with an agent that gets installed on endpoints and then completely monitors these endpoints and, check it's secures these endpoints, but also can remote in and all that stuff. So when I got into this job, it was like, oh wow, I'm dealing with normal IT stuff and networking, but now I'm analyzing antivirus logs. I'm figuring out why these policies aren't compliant, and then these people are screaming at me that they have an endpoint that's not secure and it's business critical and this is urgent and you need to fix this. And then I'll go in here and I'm figuring it out, and I'm like, oh guys, everything's okay. Or I'm getting hit up about mystery devices, and why are these mystery devices popping up, and there are people in my platform. Then I go and have to send them documentation on why, and antivirus is picking up it's all these different things that I'm learning how to do. But it's crazy because these are things that I was slowly building up with course careers, with the Google cybersecurity program. And just, I'm an inquisitive individual, so I'm on YouTube. I would go to the library, and I just trying to find anything, man. I'll try to find anything that said networking. And I'm not going to say I was that guy that was reading those front to back. But it felt good to have him. It made me feel like I was doing something. Like, oh, I have the book over there, and I'll go pick it up and maybe read it for 5 or 10 minutes. But man, it made me feel good. It made me feel like I was making motion, like I'm going to the library, I'm buying books, I'm taking courses, I'm taking tests, I'm building portfolios. Like I'm doing the job. I'm doing everything I need to do. Eventually, it's gonna come. Eventually, it's gonna come, and it came. And when I did the interview, it was like I said, hiring manager, great on the hiring manager, two managers that are my managers now. And I still remember they're like, okay, give us your spiel. Like they knew, I don't even know. It was just like they knew that I was a talker. And I was like, oh, you want my spiel? Talked them off for like 30 minutes. Like it was crazy. Everything I did. And they're just looking at each other. And it was great. We had built some great rapport during that. Got to the district manager, and he's a French guy, and he's real cool, real blunt, real straightforward. But he was awesome too, and I got the job. And next thing you know, I get in this field. This is a real job, right? This is real technical stuff, and in the other job was just really trying to make sure I was doing a lot of documenting. This is actually fixing the problem. This is figuring out why things aren't appearing offline and going and figuring out. Oh, it's just so many different things, right? And having to be able to have the technical skill to identify the problem and then fix it, something that I'm learning. It's something that's super intimidating. It's like drinking water out of a fire hose. That's what they tell me at my job. And it truly is. It's a lot. And I never have been in a field where my training was, like a month, maybe a month and a week or something. But I never been in a job where they told me, oh, you're not going to be comfortable until you're 6 months in, right? Oh, yeah, you're not going to be, we don't expect you to come to work like for 6 months. I'm like, wow, like, okay, like these people know this is not easy stuff. This is in depth. And then that made me feel good. Like, wow, okay. So if they were to lose me, it would require 6 months of training to get someone back to my level, right? And that's kind of where you want to be. You want to be in a position that you bring value, that you're not easily replaced. And I was blessed to be able to do that after 10 months in Disney. I'm in this job for like 2.5 months now. And yeah, man, I'm just trying to rock and roll and keep leveling up.
That's so cool. Is there any last pieces of advice you want to give to people who are want to follow in your footsteps and land their first help desk job?
Yeah, I just think that you need to stay focused, and I think that you need to give yourself a schedule of studying. Don't study a lot, get really motivated, then stop. Then study a lot, get really motivated, then stop. You're not going to make any progress, right? Keep a steady motivation and try to maybe do it every weekend, or maybe try to do it maybe every other day, maybe every Tuesday and Thursday. Those are study days, right? But give yourself time to learn the material, and don't try to ram it down. You can learn it slowly, but be consistent. And I think you're going to see things stick. You're going to start remembering things. You're going to start seeing things appearing multiple times that and it'll give you confidence to keep going. I definitely think, getting a program that is going to build you a portfolio is pretty, it's what I would do. It's what I did. But everybody's on their own paths and journeys. So I just definitely think that as long as you are finding the information, you're staying consistent, and then you are applying, you're not scared to apply, I think you're going to have a lot of success. The job market is hard right now. Don't get discouraged, because everybody's feeling the same thing. So you have to think that if everybody's starting to get discouraged, then you have a way, and you're not getting discouraged, you're beating them, right? Because you might apply for jobs that they don't apply for. Like they might stop, they might give up. Well, guess what? You're still applying, and you'll get those jobs. So don't give up. Keep fighting, keep going through, and eventually it'll mean the world to you, and you'll feel like you accomplished, something really, really, truly great.
That's so cool. And I want to mention, so, we've talked a lot about Course Careers, and Course Careers is not sponsoring this video in any way. But if you guys are interested in watching, we've actually had Josh Madakor, one of their instructors, on the channel several times. If you're interested in learning more and, hearing from one of their instructors, I definitely recommend going to click on this video right here in the description or down in the description and watching that video and learning more. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate all your wonderful insight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you guys, I have my own channels at Big Bro Tech, and I'll send you the link. That way you can put them in there. TikTok, YouTube, you guys can check me out there. I try to provide content, give you guys a little insight into my own journey. So I really appreciate it, Dakota, and it was awesome today.
I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yes,
Everyone,
sir.
I hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, keep learning.